Hey guys, welcome back to Daniel Rosehill Plus on YouTube. My name's Daniel Rosehill and this is my second YouTube channel, which is a little bit more varied in topic than my main YouTube channel, which is just called Daniel Rosehill. I know my naming of YouTube channels has not been so imaginative to date, and this YouTube channel covers a lot of different themes, whereas my main one is focused on Jerusalem and Israel. So if the other one interests you, go ahead and subscribe, or if you like the kind of random inundating topics here, consider subscribing to this one. I want to talk today about how to do video blogs or vlogs in one take. This is based on a couple of tips I've sort of cobbled together, both from doing this myself and recently from watching tips from voiceover artists or VO artists, as well as YouTubers and YouTube vloggers on how they manage to do this. The one take thing on YouTube, some people are really into it. I was surprised to see that Curtis Judd, who's one of my favorite YouTubers, he puts up amazing videos on lighting and sound design. He's actually a one-take guy, which kind of encouraged me because I'm also a one-take guy. For whatever reason, whether I'm doing voiceovers or video blogs like this, like talking head kind of videos, I like to do it in one take. And I understand that that's kind of an inefficient workflow in some respects. You could get, you know, if you've got a 4-minute voiceover script and you're 4 minutes in and you screw up at 2 minutes, you go back, you might screw up again and you go back and you go back, but finally you get it all the way through. So that's kind of how the one take method works. But there are a couple of ways that you can sort of make it easier, even if you agree with me that it's probably not the most efficient workflow. So the first thing that I would say is get a decent amount of storage on your camera. Now, I personally, I'm pretty old school. I'm shooting with a camcorder. That's what I have rigged up here in front of me. I love camcorders. I'm using specifically the Canon XA40, but most people these days doing vlogs and video blogging or probably using mirrorless or less people now DSLR. But whatever you're using, it probably takes something like an SD card for storage, or even a micro SD if it's something small. Storage in the year 2023 is very, very cheap. So you can look up what the maximum supported storage is on your camera and just buy a big chunky SD card. Now, sometimes cameras, if you look up the user manual, have, you know, theoretically, like the motherboard can support up to a 1 terabyte SD. You can find these days 1 terabyte SDs and micro SDs on the market. The point I'm trying to get to here is that storage in the year 2023 is very, very cheap. So get something big, a big old SD card as big as you can afford, and put that in your camera. Now, the reason that you want to do this is when you're trying to shoot in one take, just forget about the constraint of storage, right? The camera I'm recording into, one of the great beauties of camcorders, cameras that are designed for video capture, is they don't tend to have anything like recording limits. So this thing can go for hours and I can just keep talking into it. And when you're trying to get video content from an expert, because I do quite a bit of subject matter expert interviews for this YouTube, for my own YouTube, but also for my work, you basically are looking to get a lot of material and cut down in editing into something that is good, right? So you want to kind of keep someone good talking, pepper them with good questions, and you'll kind of get your insight. So the first thing is, if you want to edit in one take, I'd recommend having a big storage card, so that's not a concern at all, and it's just mentally much easier when you don't know, oh, I'm running out of storage. So get the biggest SD card you can afford, format it as regularly you need to keep it fresh, and when you're done with files, dump them on the computer or whatever you're using for editing, an NAS, so that they're not taking up room on the memory card. The second tip I have is using a little wireless recorder or a handheld recorder. Now, I'm going to bring this little magic toy into frame. This is the JJ-CSR VD1, and it's a remote controller. It's a wired one. It's definitely not the most sophisticated tool on the market. You can find, actually, I'm sure, if you go into more expensive camcorders, you'll find stuff that even have phone apps for controlling the camera. I'm sure they exist, but this guy's actually one of the best investments I've ever made in my video setup, because it literally just gets the job done. So what this guy is, it's called a wireless LANC recorder. If you have a camcorder, there's a high chance you'll find one of these on Amazon. This only cost me about $20, and because I realized pretty quickly this was amazingly useful, I actually bought a few of them just to have backups in case they stop making these. Always my concern. And this guy just plugs into my camera, and I'm about sort of 2 meters in front of my camera, sitting on the couch speaking to my camera. Now what this allows me to do is basically it gives me all the key functions of my camera at hand's reach, so I can stop the recording, start the recording. And this is sort of arguing against my blog. This is more useful for multiple takes, but the idea is you don't have to. You can sort of get comfortable, get yourself comfy, whatever you're sitting on, and then start the camera rolling without having to kind of constantly go back and forth to touch your camera when it's set up. Another cool thing is I'm looking at myself speaking at the moment. I have the little screen flipped towards me, and the other buttons on this are T and wide for tight and wide for your zoom. So watch this. I can literally there's no one behind the camera now, it's just me. I can come in, I can go out, in, out, etc., and just get my framing right all remotely. So if you're also a one-man team, something like this is super useful. And what I do is generally I just take this, it's got a little clippy thing, so I'll generally clip it somewhere out of frame, like it's currently on my microphone, on the boom stand I've got this microphone on, and it just makes it a lot easier. If I really screw up and have to start a take again, instead of going back and forth and back and forth, and that gets a bit aggravating, I just have a little button in front of me. And I think, again, these tips are just really for getting comfortable in front of camera, because when you're doing a video blog, a talking head, whether it's you or whether it's an expert you're interviewing, the key to, I find, just getting good stuff out is being comfortable, forgetting that there's even a camera in front of you. Just talk as if you're talking to a friend. That's, I know, such a generic tip, but it's really useful. The third and final tip I have, and this one is, I hope, going to be very useful for people, is clapping. So sometimes when you're doing a video blog, now I tend to do vlogs or these kind of talking head videos either without a script or only with the bullet point script. So I'll look at a script and have it somewhere out of camera. I haven't really done much stuff to date using teleprompters. So what you can do is sometimes, you might have this idea in your mind of, I want to talk about these 4 different points, but you sort of naturally mentally pause between each thing on your list in order to gather your thoughts. The thing is, if you wanted to keep it in one take, you're going to just kind of like stop speaking and like think for a second, right? So if I stop speaking now, when you're editing that, you want to obviously take out those kind of pauses where you're just staring blankly at the camera just as you edit out your kind of noises and pauses generally. A thing that I have found useful, and that this is kind of a tip I picked up from broadcasters, people working in radio, is to use claps, because if you've got someone else editing your video, or even if it's just you, these create waveforms. And this is the same reason, by the way, that you see a lot of people doing clapping instead of using a slate board if they're syncing their video and audio in post. So what I'll do sometimes is, let's say I do an intro and I screw up the intro. Instead of starting a new take and I'm going to end up with like 10 or 15 different files on the camera, pause, 3 claps, and then go, right? So I'm just going to give a demonstration. I'm just going to get my name wrong, right? Hi, this is David Rosehill, and I'm speaking to you here from Madrid. And what you can do, and then you can do your second take. Now, what you can do is, when you're going into your editing in post-production, the reason you do that clapping move is it becomes very obvious in your waveform, and you can see, and you want to also leave a pause before and after just to make it even more obvious. So you're going to be looking at your audio editor, you're going to see, a waveform that looks like this, up and down, and then you see it stops. There's 3, peaks in the waveform. And then that's kind of a way to know that was either an outtake or that was a pause that you want to get rid of, and it'll just make your job so much easier. So that's basically it. To recap on my tips for recording video blogs, or vlogs, if you will, in one take. One is, get a big storage card so that you don't have to worry about your memory capacity, and just basically let the camera run. It actually, in some ways, makes it harder because you've got more extraneous material. In other ways, it makes it a lot easier because you just have one file to import in your video editor. The next key is that you want to, if you make mistakes or you pause between topics or you want to start your take again, just leave a pause and do a clapping thing or something distinctive. In the waveform, most people clap. I don't know what else. You could probably cough or something, but claps, look really distinctive in a waveform because they're kind of high frequencies. So that's the thing people will do. And the final tip that I have is check if you can get one of these wireless controllers available for your camera, just because they make it a lot easier if you're doing vlogging solo to just kind of like focus instead of leaning over and back, recording, stopping. Get your camera in a good position, get yourself in a good position, take the bit of time to sort of, you know, check your hair, whatever, make sure everything is in the shot is good, the framing's good. And even cheap ones like this $20 or $30 piece from Amazon generally allow you to control the zoom, which again, you can make these tiny adjustments. I'm going to go in a tiny bit here, tiny bit. Oh, sorry, I'm all the way out. See? And you can just make these really, really fine-grained adjustments to your zoom control. I'm going to go in a small bit here, too tight. And just so that you can get the as good a shot as you can get as a one-person operator, and then it just makes the whole process easier. So those are my tips, basically. I hope that this has been useful. If you want to get more videos from me on these roving topics, do consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. Thank you for watching today.